Gamers, welcome back. Today we'll be reviewing Sunset Overdrive. Sunset Overdrive is a open-world third-person shooter created by Insomniac Games. If you know their past games such as Spyro, Ratchet & Clank, Resistance, this is that company. The game itself is possibly one of the best Xbox One exclusive out there. However, the PC version hasn't been ruled out yet, so hopefully we'll see a PC version of this game. The game starts off with you being able to select the gender, skin tone, and body type for your character. That's right, the player, the gamer, is the protagonist of the game. Now keep in mind there's only 4 types of body you can pick from, 2 for each sex. There's a lot of facial features you can change and other coloration, so there's a good decent amount of customization for the character. What happens next is that the player gets plopped into the game as a garbage collector and a physical employee who is tasked with cleaning up the party that Fizco is throwing for the celebration of a launch of a new energy drink called Overcharged Delirium. Now what happens next is that humans start mutating from the drinking of this energy drink and are being called OD. The thing about the story is it can either be a good thing or a bad thing. The game has exceptional amount of humor and there's a lot of jokes and funny parts in the game that is well done, but the problem is it breaks the fourth wall a majority of time. What that does is the character starts talking to the audience as if this was a movie and he's well aware of the acting, so it kind of ruins the immersion at times. And it's not bad if it's thrown in at certain times, but in the case of this game they've done it so many times that you kind of lose aware of the plot of the game. So that's one of the downside about the story in the game. Now aside from the OD, which are mutated humans, there are also scabs. Scabs are basically humans who aren't mutated. And the other enemy is the Fizco Corporation Security. Each of the enemy groups has their own variety of classes and mix. For example, the OD mutated humans will have flying units and larger units, also large units that respawn enemies. They run around and hide, so the AI is pretty decent. The physical robots will have one giant unit and some bombers, while the scabs are all mixed varieties of sort that uses guns. The graphics and coloration to this game is very vibrant, sort of like a comic book. There's a lot of things that reminds me of a comic book in this game. For example, there are words that pop up when you kill enemies, such as the poppers. The word pop will pop up, or you use certain buff like the nuke buff on your weapons, you'll see the word boom pop up. So it's really cool effects in the game. The other thing is that the destructible environments, there's a lot of destructibles in the game, from cars to benches, tables, etc. There's a decent amount. So overall the game itself has very nice graphics and physics. The other part is that the map design is really well done. If you look at the map, it is decently sized, it's pretty big, and everything in the game can be jumped on and grinded on, which we'll talk about in the gameplay in a. The voice acting for this type of game is decently done. It fits the humor and the atmosphere of the game really well. The thing is, the music is very subjective to one's personal taste. Most of the music playing will be GarageBand rock. I wish there was an option where you can actually literally go through different radio stations, but unfortunately GarageBand rock is most of the music in the game. There are certain times when different music plays for the humor in the game, but other than that, that's the default music for the entire game. The control to this game is very nice and might take a little bit of time to get used to. It's very complicating at first because everything you do in this game, from the grinding, you have to press X button to actually grind and hold it. It's basically the action button to attach your character to certain things, like the rails. So what is the gameplay like and what can your character do? Your character starting off can jump and grind or undergrind on rails, which is laid all over the entire map, and also grind on anything that has edges, including the architects. He can also bounce on top of umbrellas, nets, and cars as such, and vault through the air while jumping on at a bar. When on the ground, he can roll or do a slam attack from the air to quickly pop up in the air, because the goal of the game is to stay off the ground or you'll get quickly killed by the enemies easily. So moving the entire time is really important in this game. As the player progresses in the game, they'll be able to double bounce, do wall running, water dashing, air dashing, etc. Additional actions to these are the shooting with the weapons and the melee ability. The game uses a certain mechanic for players to build up on called style, which is a meter on the top right. It goes up in streak and looks like a lightning symbol. It builds up to 4 levels of style on the meter and immediately starts declining or slowly go down when player stops using style when attacking. When a player doesn't bounce around or grind on all sorts of objects, that is when it starts deteriorating. And also, it goes back to 0 when a player falls to the ground or starts walking instead of swinging, grinding, or jumping, and shooting and killing up enemies. Each style enables an amp to kick in for the character. Amps are basically additional attack buffs that are given and invested in by players as he buys them and upgrades them. Example, amps that will cause weapons to hit harder, throw AoE fire when you're shooting or ice effect, melee tornadoes, random lightning effects, or grinding and having fire burst on the side, or just to name a few amps, since there are so many amps available, and also customizing them to your playstyle is important. There are also a separate amp system for weapons which can be added for more effects to them. So at each style level, certain amps kick in. For example, at level 1, hero amps kick in, level 2, melee and weapons, level 3 is the epic amps, and level 4 is when all amps stay active and kick in. The trick is to keep using styling jumping abilities and shooting and gunning down your enemies to keep this meter up and going. Also, there are overdrives, which are perks you can invest in, which mainly revolves around damage to certain types of enemies or to generate more style. You earn this throughout the game by doing certain moves over and over again, such as grinding or undergrinding on the rails, or wall jumping, wall running, or killing enemies, etc. There are also limited slots for the amount of amps and overdrives you can have at one time, so you have to pick carefully and customize your character to the way you want. Now, along with all this, the game has a very generous selection of weapons, which are also upgradable and can be filled with their own type of amps that you can buy and upgrade. Every weapon has a tutorial video to it and it is very fun to use. Every weapon also has information on what enemy it is best used against to do optimal damage. The customization in this is really fun in choosing the right weapons for you. Basically, amps and overdrives is important to mastering the gameplay with the weapons, especially when you take the game online and play with others to compete against them for points. The game map itself in single player has a variety of activities that players can take part in. Scattered throughout the maps are cameras, sneakers, toilet paper, signs that can be found to use to upgrade amps. There are also side missions and trial events that reward players, hidden chests, phone that tells a little bit of story, and random people running around that will reward you for saving them. All of this along with the main mission. There's also a fort defense gameplay that enables more amp unlocks that players can do, which involves setting up traps and defending against hordes of OD attacking at night. Traps themselves rely on a certain energy bar on how many you can place. Traps can be found through the main and side missions. There are plenty of things to do in Sunset City. Now, when you're done with the single player, you can always find a phone booth and enter Chaos Squad, which is the online play of the game. The online play is also ridiculously fun. Players will vote on certain events, which gives certain buffs and percentages, trap, power, chaos level, etc. Players will be ranked in score and can compete with each other to earn the highest score, but at the end of it all will be a fort defense gameplay where the players will have to work together in defense against the OD chaos level, and when the points top out, the scores, etc. gets averaged, the player will unlock weapons, currency, and other goodies. So at the end of the day, there isn't any deathmatch multiplayer mode of any sort, but more of a teamwork based gameplay. My opinion about the game, guys, is that this is, if not one of the best Xbox One exclusive to date that I've played. The game is beautiful and vibrant. The action is fun and ridiculously insane, and the bosses are really well done and fun to fight against. Some part might be an issue for players who are sensitive to colors and lights and effects because the action in this game is really fast. The only problems with the game I've had was, one is that the control doesn't really have a reset camera option where you can press a certain button and have the camera face in front of you. Sometimes you'll be spinning your camera so much you're not paying attention to the surrounding, you can lose your streak. The other thing is the story of the game is humorous and great, but overall it loses that immersion each time the character breaks the fourth wall. And it happens not just at certain times, but many times, and they overused it so much that it can get really hectic at times, and overall it just made the game really goofy instead of being really immersive and really fun. So they overused that quite a bit. And last but not least, the multiplayer is really fun, but it can get dry over time and eventually it will become really boring to do. So hopefully they'll add more modes as the upcoming DLCs etc., because I love to play this game versus other players. It'll be really fun to slide around the city and just, I don't know, fight other players or have different varieties of modes instead of just a defense fort mode. This has been my review of Sunset Overdrive. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and remember to subscribe and follow and check out my other reviews. This game is fantastic, and I hope that they do bring it to PC because you guys deserve to play this too. I hope Microsoft does bring it over. They haven't taken that possibility out yet. I think that this game will be a big hit on the PC version. People will love this game. It is fun. It is fun, and that's the most important thing about video games to me, is having fun. So thanks for watching, and game on. Gamers, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Civilization